The nomination court. We've had the campaigning period. We've now had the polling date yesterday, and of course extended to today by statutory instrument by the President due to some polling stations opening late yesterday. In fact, some as late as 7 p.m. didn't have ballot papers, and some of them only opened this morning. So the President had to issue a statutory instrument legally, because obviously it would have been illegal to continue having the election without the legal instruments behind it to support it. So that's what the President did by issuing the statutory instrument. Now, there is one discussion that we've been having here on ZTN Prime. In fact, we started talking about this many months ago, and that, of course, was urging Zimbabwean citizens, Zimbabwean voters, to exercise calm, peace during the election, before, during, and after the election. Now, of course, Zimbabwe has a constitutional committee that is mandated to look at issues such as peace and security. And, of course, I'm talking about the National Peace and Reconciliation Committee. And I'm pleased to welcome here at ZTN Prime Studios at the National Command Center, Obert Gutu, who is a member of that committee. Obert, welcome to ZTN Prime.
Thank you very much, Andy, for having me.
And it's always a pleasure, my friend. You know, we've known each other many years, so
Absolutely.
It's nice to have you here.
Absolutely.
Obert, let's talk about peace and security. I mean, you're NPRC. Can you give us an update, first of all, of the situation on the ground, particularly during campaigning and before the actual ballot? We will get to the polling day, but what about after the nomination court sat all the way up to Monday night when campaigning finished?
Andy, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Zimbabweans in general for the manner that they have conducted themselves, particularly the period before the polling day, which was yesterday. I think the atmosphere has generally been peaceful throughout the length and breadth of the country, and as the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, which is the constitutional institution mandated with peace-building initiatives in this country, we are actually very happy, and we feel indebted to Zimbabweans, the politicians, the political party leaders, the supporters, all stakeholders, including yourselves, the media, the fourth estate, for actually pushing and propagating the agenda of peace. It has generally been a very peaceful pre-election environment, and I'm very pleased on behalf of the NPRC to also acknowledge that even yesterday on polling day, the reports that we're getting throughout the country are pointing to an election day that went on generally very peaceful, minus one or two, of course, logistical issues, but we haven't received any reports of violence. We were particularly focusing here in Harare Metropolitan Province, which province I'm mandated by the Commission to superintend over, but I've also been talking to my colleagues, fellow commissioners, who are all over the other provinces in the country, and we haven't received any adverse reports of violence and or any serious breach of the peace.
Now, let's talk about the initiatives that NPRC held or carried out prior to the elections, and obviously the months in advance. Talk to us about that. What did you do? Did you engage the political players? What was your strategy so that everyone was on the same page?
We actually, Andy, we have an election strategy that we actually worked on months before the holding of the elections yesterday. As you know, since we're a peace-building commission, we are actually full-time peace builders. We have initiatives. We actually have a thematic committee that specifically works on issues to do with that. And they came up with what, in my humble opinion, is a brilliant election strategy, where we were focusing on conflict prevention. The whole focus on and thrust of the NPRC during this electoral cycle was to focus on conflict prevention. So we were having programs throughout the country. We had our commission, the commissioners, members of the secretariat going throughout the country on peace campaigns, interfacing with political parties, interfacing with other stakeholders like the church, the media, the youth, women organizations, students organizations, civil society. And I believe that that has largely contributed to the largely peaceful election season that we've had. Because as the NPRC, we believe that without peace, we can't have political stability. Without peace, we can't have socio-economic development in our country. So we are actually also thankful to members of our secretariat who have worked their socks off, really. Coming up with this election strategy, it's a document that, like I said, is a brilliant document, more than 100 pages long, and they have actually gone out to come up with strategies that we have implemented to ensure that we go out to communities and ensure that once we talk to all key stakeholders, we inculcate in them the culture of peace building. at the end of the day, we want all Zimbabweans to appreciate that this is a country for all of us, regardless of our different political persuasions or different, religious persuasions. We are one people, as the former vice president, the legendary nationalist Joshua Ngomo said. We are a people together. So we believe that as the NPRC, we have done our own small part to ensure that we push the agenda of peace. And I would say so far so good.
Right, now talk about this election strategy document. Are there any high-level points that you'd like to point out in terms of some of the strategies that you employed?
Yeah, the high points were to have interfaces with political parties in each and every province. We had interfaces with political actors, with also state actors, key stakeholders like the police, key stakeholders like senior government officials and the departments in the various provinces, key interfaces with youth organizations, with the church. Particularly the church has been very, very helpful. And we're actually excited that by the time that the elections were held, by the time that the polling happened yesterday, I can safely say that I believe the majority of Zimbabweans were really appreciating that an election is just what it is. It's an election. We should not fight over an election, beat each other over an election, insult each other over an election. It is something that the Constitution says we must hold every 5 years. And at the end of the day, once the election is over, life has to go on. So it's not like a do or die mission.
Now, one of the things that was, I suppose, a first in Zimbabwean elections was political parties signing the peace pledge. Yes. What role, did you have any role as NPRC in putting that together and getting all stakeholders to the table to sign it?
Oh, this time around, the NPRC, we really were not involved in that. It wasn't part of our strategy in the election strategy or the conflict prevention strategy. But all the same, let me take this opportunity to applaud all the people who went out of their way, the church and all the other organizations that actually echoed the need to have peace, and even starting from the first citizen himself. His Excellency the President Mnangagwa has been on record. I've noticed that each of the speeches that he made publicly, he always had a punchline, and the punchline was about peace. And I believe that also helped. Once people continuously are told or reminded about the importance and the need to observe peace, we somehow, both consciously and subconsciously, then get to appreciate the importance of the preservation of peace.
Now, we have noticed over past elections, particularly when parties, of all parties, hold rallies, the type of sloganing, and I won't call it hate speech, but attacking speech that is being used, down with such and such, up with such and such, and all sorts of different slogans by opposition parties and so on. But I think I can safely say, having followed the rallies around, that that was dampened this year. It seemed as if leadership understood that what they needed to do was to sell their message to the electorate rather than degenerate or denigrate anyone else.
Absolutely, and I've also realized that definitely this electioneering season, there was very little, if any, hate language, at least in the public spaces, at rallies and other such public meetings. And I believe it's also important to appreciate that once we have this discourse where political leaders appreciate that you can actually hold a rally without insulting your competitors or competitor, without really saying things that are vulgar or things that incite hatred or that incite anger, you can still be able to propagate whatever ideology or manifesto you have. And I believe that Zimbabwe, I think we are a maturing democracy. Fine, we're not yet there, because look, we are only a 43-year-old republic, but I think that we're on the right direction, and I believe that our democracy is maturing, and I think that is just a matter of time before we become a fully fledged multi-party democracy.
Now, why? I get this question a lot, even from some of our viewers. Of course, they want peace and security. Every Zimbabwean does. But from a higher level, why is peace and security, or what role does it play to establishing a free, fair, and credible election?
Peace and security is like the lifeblood of any country's stability. When you look at any country in this world, where there's no peace, where there's war, just look at the countries. I can name them one by one. Look at what is happening in Sudan right now. Look at what is happening in Niger right now. So the moment that you remove peace from any community, from any society, you can forget about development. You can even forget about even political stability. Because in many cases, more often than not, 9 times out of 10, peace speaks to stability. Peace speaks to development. So we believe that as Zimbabweans, we are generally a peaceful and a peace-loving people. And I believe that should we go on to enhance that peace-building DNA that we have, I think, as a people, that will only improve ourselves as a politically stable country. I believe that we are arguably one of the most politically stable countries in the world, in Africa. I've given examples of other countries. I mean, what's happening, not only in Africa, even beyond. You see, there are wars all over. People are fighting. People are, killing each other, which is not happening here. So I believe that as Zimbabweans, we should maybe maintain this and even improve upon it, enhance our peace-building, DNA. And I believe that so far we are on the right track. And as the NPRC, we are actually happy that each and every day we interact with key stakeholders. We appreciate that our message or our gospel of peace is actually reaching out. And the good thing is reaching out across the political divide. And I believe that we are excited also as the NPRC, that many people are now aware of our existence as a commission. Previously, they say they did not even know that we existed. But I believe that thanks, obviously, to the involvement of people like yourselves in the fourth estate, in the media, you have really helped to the NPRC to reach out to the people. And I believe that we should continue doing that.
I don't worry, we will. Now, of course, there is a concern, and Zimbabweans, I'm sure, still have this concern, is that when you look back at previous elections, particularly the last one in 2018, violence reared its ugly head after the presidential election results were announced. So what is your plan? Are you still, because I would say that your work is still there. In other words, even though the polling data has come and gone, or at least it will do by end of day today, will you, as NPRC, be from today, tomorrow, all the way up to results as they're coming out, will you still be engaging political leaders? Because we're already seeing some allegedly reports on Twitter with some leaders saying we've won this, if we haven't won it, it's stolen, and so forth, even though, of course, there is no proof. So what are you doing as NPRC to engage leadership of all political parties now, up to the results, so that we don't have what we had in 2018?
What we're doing is, Eddie, like I said, we are all over the country right now. I'm here in Harare with my team. We have a commissioner in each and every province. I think it's important that the nation knows. We have Commissioner Dr. Tinashe Kuni, he's superintending over Masvingo province. We have Commissioner Dr. Chekenyere, he's superintending over Manicaland province. We have Commissioner Dr. Josephine Shambare, she's superintending over Mashonaland Central Province. We have Commissioner Noma Gwere, she's superintending over Matabeleland South Province. We have Commissioner Dr. Donald Due, he's superintending over Midlands Province. We also have the Executive Secretary, Mrs. Zembe, Subusiswe Zembe, she's superintending over Bulawayo Province. We have Commissioner Lillian Chigwedere, she's superintending over Mashonaland East Province. We have the Vice Chairperson of the Commission, Dr. Chiropafadzo Moyo, she's superintending over Mashonaland West Province. So you notice that each and every commissioner actually has a province. And as I'm talking, they are there physically on the ground. And we are going to be there until well after the announcement of the presidential result. We are actually going to be there even way after, when everything has been done, the inauguration and everything, because it is our duty as the NPRC. We are actually constitutionally mandated to ensure that there's peace in this country. And peace, like I said, is not like a one-off affair. It's not like you're going out.
Not just for the elections,
absolutely.
Is it?
That's why we say a peaceful Zimbabwe for all generations. And that's why we say as the NPRC, peace should be there for all times. We should never ever say we only want peace now because this is the election season. We want peace every time, always and forever.
Now let's talk about these commissioners who are superintending or overlooking each province. What is the plan? Are they constantly talking to the leadership, political leadership of those provinces, all the political parties? How are they interacting with political parties to keep hammering that message? Peace up, don't tell your supporters to fight and all of that.
Very good question. And what they're doing is exactly like what we're doing now, interacting with not only members of political parties or leaders of political parties, they're interacting with key stakeholders, state actors, the police there, the government departments, we've got the ministers of state and their departments in each and every province. They are also with other key stakeholders, youth organizations, women organizations, and also, like I said, religious organizations. Maybe if I say the church, you might just want to think we talk to Christians only. We talk of all religions, Islam, and any religion you can think of, African traditional religion. So we are always doing that to ensure that each and every one of our commissioners in their respective provinces are actually on call 24/7. So Being on call 24/7, it means if anything happens that needs our involvement, I can't say, no, I'm too busy, I'm eating salad at my house, I can't come. I simply have to respond there and then. That's why we're on call.
Now, okay, now let's assume that you do hear, you get reports of violence or some form of commotion happening in some area. What happens? Are you mandated to actually go out and investigate and see what's happening? What is the rule on the ground?
What we do is if we get any report or reports that something is happening, maybe there's an incident or incidents of violence either happening or about to happen, we have our reaction team. I'm sure you can see here behind the scenes the team that I have here. These are young and energetic people, more energetic than
us.
Yeah, than us, yes, you and me. So we call this a response team. We have been all over. Like I said, yesterday we were roaming throughout the province of Metropolitan Harare. We left Warren Park about 7:30 p.m. and today our teams have been everywhere. They went back to Warren Park, they've been to Mbare, we were in Heathcliff yesterday, and I'm sure from now, this afternoon maybe we'll be going to Mavuku and some other such places. In fact, we are everywhere. We want to maintain this presence in such a way that we don't just wait to get reports. We actually are proactive. We go to communities. We go to places. Once we do that, we want to see what is happening on the ground. And this is the exact role of the team you see me with today.
So, of course, so therefore, if just to close up, then you're saying as NPRC, talking about up to this moment in time, because, of course, we can't go into the future, but as NPRC, up to this moment in time, you're satisfied with the peace and security that has been prevailing in the country before and during polling day?
Absolutely. We are actually happy that yesterday polling was very peaceful. Today, so far so good. I mean, I came here, it's free, people are relaxed. I didn't see anyone toying or singing or doing anything that is threatening. And we once again would like to thank Zimbabweans to say at the end of the day, this is an election, for God's sake. It's not a war, it's a wonder. So we hope that we're going to maintain this. And as we always say, I cannot end this interview without saying our mantra. You know, peace begins with me, peace begins with you, Andy, peace begins with all of us.
And of course, you're not sitting on your laurels because there's still 5 days to go or 4 days to go before the presidential election results. And this could be a dangerous period, particularly after the vote. So you're actually redoubling your efforts.
This is why we say we are on call 24/7. We are not sleepy. We make sure that we are there because we are there, and we make sure that our presence has to be felt. That's why we touched literally all the corners of Metropolitan Harare. And each and every commissioner is doing that in his or her own province. So the good thing is we're covering the entire country.
All right. Yes. Well, that was Obert Gutu, a member of the National Peace and Reconciliation Committee. He is part of the commission. He's a commissioner there, just giving us a rundown about the peace and security situation in Zimbabwe, particularly after nomination court, during the campaigning, and of course on polling date. And I think the message is clear. Yes, we are talking about peace and security during the election that we're going through now, but peace and security is a 365-day thing. Zimbabweans in their minds must appreciate that this is just an election. Sure, politicians may win and lose, but at the end of the day, after the results are announced, 5 days after yesterday, Wednesday, which will be Monday, once the presidential results are announced and everything is done and dusted, we all live next to each other. We're brothers and sisters living on the same road in the same street. We all go to the same work together. We're not enemies. We're actually all Zimbabweans. So peace and security must always prevail in Zimbabwe at whatever time, not just at the election period, but whenever we think about it. And also the NPRC is calling for all political leaders to continue without issuing hate speech, to not incite their supporters by issuing statements such as, we've won, the vote is rigged, etc. These sort of words that may incite some supporters in political parties to take violence or take things into their own hands. I think that must be the clear message that we send to all Zimbabweans during this period. It's back to you in the studio, Eben.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. I'll see you later.